All right, everyone. Steve Metrics here of Db8 Sports with your boy.
DJ Triggs.
And together we are Db8 Sports back on August 19th. And this is the very first day after our crazy 24 team fantasy league draft. And how about that,
Oh man.
Triggs? How are you feeling about your team?
Oh, I feel fantastic about my team. The
Nice.
thing I don't feel fantastic about is the people that we drafted with. What in the world? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, we saw a few wild things, but for the most part, I think you feel pretty good with your team. I think you got a pretty solid roster there, and I'm feeling pretty good with my team as well. I definitely shaped up to build a team that was pretty much my game plan from my most two recent mock drafts, and it went pretty much to script. I thought I actually like my round 5, round 6 were almost a little bit better than what I was expecting to get, but that's kind of what I saw with mine. How about you, Triggs? Did you get some picks that definitely seemed a little bit better than what you were expecting?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like just about every player I got for like the first what I'm going back to my team
4?
here.
I'd say at
I
least
think
4
yeah,
rounds.
first at least 3 or 4 rounds where it was like, wait, that guy fell, and we had what 24 teams, so it's
24
like,
teams. Yep.
yeah, there's no way I should have gotten Isaiah Pacheco like that late. I mean, what I had the 20th pick, 21st, something like that.
21st, yeah. So you were 21st plus then we'll add 3 to that. So you're probably 21 and 27, I'm thinking.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
getting Pacheco and like Josh Jacobs and guys like that was just kind of like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then coming back to what, like 40 plus picks and
Sure.
still being able to get like an Amari Cooper, like it just, things were just falling, and I'm like, well, I can't say no to that guy. That wouldn't even make any sense.
Exactly. And I think in our league too, like there's definitely an emphasis to get a quarterback early. And we'll talk to you in a bit on that strategy. But in our league too, there's only one quarterback per team because we have 24 plus teams in the league. So it's very interesting to see so many quarterbacks go early, which means the other positional players are kind of undervalued, and then they can slip like an Isaiah Pacheco did to you. So
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I guess so. I mean,
he is
I just
projected for a
let the
ton of
board
points.
fall. Like, yeah, true. What was your strategy that you went with now that it's all over?
Yeah. So my strategy that I wanted to go with was establish myself with the running back that I felt would have the most opportunity to have himself have the most amount of volume per game. And to me, the running back that makes that most apparent to me is Zamir White. And the reasoning behind that is you have to be on a team that can advance the ball downfield, but isn't the number one threat. So, like, if we go back to last season, the running back that I thought was of that, but unfortunately had like some weird holdout situation, to me was Jonathan Taylor. I felt like with the Colts bringing in Anthony Richardson, plus having the dynamic receivers they had on offense, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman. Then there's the other one that I don't always remember, but they had a real nice string of receivers. They always have a really good tight end, whether it's Jelani Woods, Jack Doyle, or whoever. They always get it right on tight end. So, in my opinion, if you're facing the Colts last season, you have to be heads up on those receiving targets. But then you have a guy like Jonathan Taylor just exploding out of the backfield that is really hard to deal with. So for my reasoning last season, I was thinking Jonathan Taylor. I still went with him. I rolled the dice on the holdout and I lost. Definitely gambling on that holdout kind of bit me in the rear when I wanted it to pay dividends, but it is what it is. But this year, I see that in Zamir White, the fact that there's so many big targets on the Raiders. I think that attention is going to be so hard to deal with that then Zamir White is going to make his way downfield. Plus that big time defense of the Raiders. I think they go hand in hand together, and that's why I paired them together. But I will say that I do see something similar with that with Isaiah Pacheco. But I think Kansas City, there's so much attention to those receiving targets, so much attention to Mahomes that Pacheco should make his way down the field on certain plays. My only concern, too, is the goal line. That's the weird thing about the Chiefs is like normally you'd expect Pacheco to just like pound it in, and at times he will. But in the past, when they have, what's his name? The former running back from the San Francisco 49ers. Every now and then, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like you have some guys that kind of be a little shifty tailback play that they like to use at the goal line, and that's how they like to score points. But other than that, man, like I think Pacheco is a very solid guy. He's always going to get you those gritty, nasty points on like 3rd and short or 4th and short. He will convert. I think Pacheco is very nasty for that exact same reason. But I had to abandon Pacheco because I really felt the need to get an elite quarterback. So for that reason, that's why I went with CJ Stroud. I felt like I could pair Stroud with a kicker and pair Stroud with some kind of target. I was hoping for Dalton Schultz, but I didn't think I would get him. And like you had Pacheco fall to you in round 2, seeing Dalton Schultz fall to me in round 5 was something I wasn't expecting.
Solid. Yeah. I don't know. I was just kind of thinking about Zamir White, and his only competition is Alexander Madison. So, like, if you look at what he did compared to Josh Jacobs last year, they combined for like 1,200 yards.
Sure.
That's a solid running back.
Exactly. Yeah. I think now that Jacobs is with Green Bay, I just feel like that volume is just going to be there pretty much nonstop for Zamir. This is a guy that was averaging pretty much 5 yards a carry pretty much every play, whether it was last season or his rookie season. So I really like that volume that's coming from him. Madison, to me, is at the end of his line. Other than that, the other tailback we have behind him is Amir Abdullah, and he's a tailback. He is a great pass-catching player out of the backfield, and that's what he's primarily there for. So honestly, like I like Zamir White, Isaiah Pacheco, probably the other one, but I was nowhere near being able to pick him, Saquon Barkley. I think that's another team, too, that has so much attention to those receiving targets. Plus, you have Dallas Goedert in the middle of the field. Plus, teams are still trying to, like, spy on Jalen Hurts. That I think Saquon Barkley is just going to be just a powerhouse, a guy who can catch a great pass, but he can definitely cut his way through holes, just like Josh Jacobs. And I know people have said against it, but like I was saying about Isaiah Pacheco, Jacobs is going to have those opportunities. He's definitely a better pass catcher than Pacheco. And opposite to Pacheco, when it gets to the goal line, Green Bay will look at Josh Jacobs either to pound it in or do something shifty at the goal line. So that's where Jacobs, to me, has a little bit of a leg up on Pacheco. I know there's talk about Pacheco catching passes, but that's one of those that I'm really going to have to see it to believe it first. I think it's coming. Kind of like how we saw Joe Mixon shift to that about a couple of years ago. But honestly, I think you have an all-around back in your first overall pick that you made with Josh Jacobs.
Right. And, I mean, we saw basically what happened when Aaron Jones came back for the Packers the second half of the season. Like, it opened up everything for Jordan Love. Josh Jacobs basically has no competition. I mean,
None.
Most people in Green Bay want A.J. Dillon cut. I mean, he's the mayor of Door County up there, and he married him a nice young, like rich young lady from the Green Bay area. Marshawn
Nice.
Lloyd,
Good
the
for
third
him.
round pick, is injured right now, and then Emmanuel Wilson, uh, he's just a dude, to be
He's all
honest.
right. Yeah.
He's getting some carries in the preseason, but yeah, nothing overly like powerful about it. But Josh Jacobs is kind of by himself.
He is, and I think as time progresses, and you see a lot of teams do this. We especially saw this in Tyler Algier a couple years ago. That some of these teams, when it comes to their rookie running
Mhm.
backs, they really do not like to use them early. Even last season with Jameer Gibbs, he was another one of those guys that really didn't have any big games whatsoever, but his volume really picked up towards the end. I know Jameer Gibbs was really hyped about last season and again this season, but a lot of these guys coming out of college, there's just so much tread on the tires in the last year that it's really, really, really hard to keep up that pace going into the season. And in a way, too, your NFL season is almost double that of a college season. You can even add the preseason games on top of that. And if you make the playoffs, that's even better. But flat out, you're basically playing double the games in the pros that you just played last year in college. So, for those reasons, a lot of those rookie running backs are not really going to hit pay dirt more often than not. So, it's a very short list of guys that you want. But even those guys that you get, you still want to have more experienced backs on your team because it's going to take a while for those rookies to really take off.
Right. Absolutely. And especially coming off an injury, it's tough sledding at that point because he didn't
It
really get
is.
much run in the preseason or in training camp. So, um, but besides that, your team's pretty well rounded with like Xavier Worthy, who could literally just explode all over the place. Um,
Exactly.
and Tajay Spears, we all like Tajay.
We do. We
Um,
do.
and yeah, I know you had to pair him up with your Raiders defense, but
Exactly.
very solid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I like my team. Um, I definitely like the position players that I got with George Pickens and Gus Edwards rounding it out, kind of like our flex positions.
Yes.
Um,
Yep.
and like I had so many people hit me up yesterday when I started talking about Bo Nix, and then he like basically beat the Packers by himself in the preseason. So
He
yeah,
did.
that was
Yeah,
fun.
absolutely. Like, and it is pretty interesting that you bring up Bo Nix. I mean, he is one of those guys that, like, when it came to looking for guys that you could basically get for undrafted, he does to me bring really good value. But I think we gotta kind of pump the brakes a little bit because for me, my strategy that I was kicking around, if I was looking at the no quarterback strategy, I was looking at possibly juggling between Geno Smith and, as bad as this sounds, Derek Carr for a little bit of time. Baker Mayfield is one that actually has a really nice schedule as well. But to
Mhm.
me, things really like get better for Bo Nix and the Broncos about after week 7. I think for the first 7 weeks, I'm looking dead in the eye at their schedule right now. I think there's about two of those 7 games, I think you can expect to go well. And again, too, this is a rookie quarterback. So some of these experienced defensive coordinators, they're going to throw some wild, wild looks at a guy. That's my only
Mhm.
concern for Bo Nix. And at first, I mean, I was a little concerned about playing Seattle week 1 at Seattle. But then I thought about it too. And I'm like, man, like Seattle is going through a little bit of a transition. They might not all be there on defense to start week 1. To me, I kind of think that game has the ability to be a shootout. But for me, after Seattle, the next 4 games are an absolute buzzsaw for defenses going up against Bo Nix. You have to go against Mike Tomlin's defense. Granted, it's at Mile High. Then you hop a plane the next week, go straight down to Florida to play against Tampa Bay defense. Like that's a really brutal defense. Then you jump back on the plane and go straight up to New York to play the Jets. That's a tough secondary. And then after that, you're home against Vegas. Granted, Vegas early season in Denver, that could be kind of close, but Antonio Pierce is going to have a pretty tough defense. The Chargers, I think, is going to let up. I don't think that's going to be as tough. Then it's at New Orleans, Carolina. Baltimore could be tough. Kansas City could be tough. Then Atlanta. And then the rest of the schedule really lightens up, to be honest. But the first handful of games of Bo Nix are going to be tough. If he can really show up to at least be somewhat kind of average, I mean, we're looking, if he can get like 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, or something close to that in that span of games, I think it's really going to tell people that, you know what, Bo Nix might be pretty good considering that he's going through an absolute buzzsaw to start the season. But his like end of his season to me looks really good. If you got to make a playoff push and you got to just use a quarterback that's out there, I think Bo Nix is perfect for that stretch.
Right. And with 24 teams being drafted like we did, I kind of waited for either Will Levis or Bo Nix. And I mean, Levis got picked a couple picks before me, and then that player somehow dropped him. So I have no idea what's going on. But Bo Nix really intrigued me because, I mean, he broke the NCAA completion percentage record with 77%. Like, completion percentage is pretty, I mean, that's insane. Like, I don't even know how to say it. It's that insane. Yeah, his average target depth was a little low. It's like 6 yards or something like that. But that means he's perfect with Sean Payton. That's the Drew Brees system, is if you want to call it that. Like, you have a shorter quarterback, nice arm, throws just bullets, just diming up. And then when you least expect it, over the top, boom, big play. Cortland Sutton's out there. Those guys definitely can give you some yardage. And one of the big things that I saw about this, and I think I said it at the draft, was like he only threw 26 interceptions in 5 years in college. Like, that's insane. So definitely looking at a guy that's not going to turn over the ball. And he can run a little bit. Like, he's got a little bit of scramble in him. So I'm like, yo, that's a steal for me back in the old no draft in a quarterback days.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like, I think that's the fun thing too about our league is like, you can possibly like kind of roll the dice for now in our league with quarterbacks that are kind of out there. Again, too, we don't really know quite well what's going on in Pittsburgh. You could always swing to one of those quarterbacks. I mean, I got my concerns about Fields, but it is pretty interesting playing in a 24-team league, knowing that, you know what, I can kind of alternate quarterbacks like people do traditionally with defenses. So that's out there. And plus, a really cool thing about, especially being on a platform like Sleeper, a guy like Taysom Hill might carry some clutch value because he has the quarterback designation in addition to being a tight end. So in your case, if you were able to get a Taysom Hill, bring him in there for a bye week or a week that maybe Bo Nix isn't so hot, you can do some wild things like that. So I like it. I like that Bo Nix is out there for your team. I think it's cool too that, I mean, if he's dumping down that much, I would think definitely the tight ends on Denver carry some value as well. I think right now in our league, Greg Dulcich is a completely open free agent. I would expect Seattle's going to probably focus more on the receivers, but I don't know if they can stop Dulcich, man. I mean, if I'm Denver, I'm going to try to run the ball through this team early, and I'm definitely going to try to use Dulcich to some advantage. And also try to keep Seattle off the field as well, because, I mean, Seattle's offense going into this game, I think, is pretty loaded. Plus, we know how dreadful Denver was in the secondary last season. So if I'm Denver, I try to keep time of possession in my favor as much as I can in this game.
I mean, but they do have Adam Troutman at tight end as well.
Okay.
Tim
He's
Patrick,
pretty good.
He's pretty shifty coming back from injury.
Sure.
And their secondary was pretty awful, but Patrick Surtain is definitely going to lock up one of those guys, either Metcalf or Lockett. So I think they'll be okay, but I don't know. That's the least of my worries. If Bo Nix just drops off the planet, there's another quarterback out there for me.
There's absolutely another quarterback out there. I want to see two, except who?
I'm standing on, as my buddy Juan would say, I am standing on business right now.
Okay.
I do not like that Eminem stealing face guy. You know who I'm talking about, Joe Burrow, right?
Oh, yeah, he's like that guy.
I'm trying to figure out why he's Eminem in the sleeper app, because it was either draft Joe Burrow or not draft Joe Burrow, but we had a whole scenario of nonsense where guys were picking 27 kickers and 13 quarterbacks, and you as the commish had to go in there and be like, hey, get all these quarterbacks off of here. And then somebody just goes, oh, I'm going to drop Aaron Rodgers and pick up Joe Burrow. Well, guess what? Nobody likes Joe Burrow. That's how I feel.
Yeah, that's true. I even had to throw the kibosh today on 4 running backs on a team. I told you that was going to happen.
So Joe Burrow, right? You did say that was going to happen. That is true. Joe Burrow, I don't care if he was injured. I don't care if he's coming off an injury. I don't care if half of his season was missed last year.
Right.
His average, his yard average per throw was down there with Kenny Pickett and Jeff Driscoll last season.
It is.
Yeah. So take that, Mr. Joe Burrow. Hey, and guess what? One of his receivers is out of there.
Out of there.
Out of there. The other guy's trying to get paid. He might be just out of there too, or maybe not out of there, but he'll be waiting for his paycheck. I'm just saying, throwing for 6.3 yards every pass is horrible. Absolutely garbage.
And that is the reason why I had to go after Mike Gesicki. I love the value there. Again, one of those receivers is gone. Jamar Chase has money issues. He does also have a little bit of an injury concern. So there is some concern to that team. And that's the thing too, is like, if Mike Gesicki for me and Joe Burrow doesn't work out, just like you have with one of the players on your team, you can always cut bait and move forward. So I think that's a really good idea to move forward with a player that you're like, it might not work out with, but if you have that backup plan and you're ready to go, you can move.
And guess what? After T. Higgins on the depth chart, all the wide receivers are horrible. Get them out of there. And you know what else? They're going to miss Joe Mixon. Like, Zach Moss is a solid guy. Chase Brown's a solid player. But Joe Mixon is a dude. Yes. And to have a dude in the backfield like that who can catch the ball but also pound the rock, he's going to give you 1,000 yards every season. Like, that's going to be missed. And guess what? Play action is not going to work very well. So those big bombs down the field, probably not going to work out. We've already known that the Cincinnati Bengals have a horrible offensive line. They've tried to touch it up every year. The guy got sacked like 97 times in the playoffs a couple of years. They still made the Super Bowl, but guess what? Came back to bite them in the Super Bowl, and that's why they ended up losing. You can't get sacked all the time. And most of the time when you're going to stop those pass rushers, you feed the ball to a guy like Joe Mixon. He runs past them. Boom. Now play action works. Not anymore. So Joe Burrow, you take that. Anyone that drafts Joe Burrow, take that. And I don't care if he blows up and he's the number 1 quarterback in fantasy. You come back to this show, you message on the bottom, and you say, well, that DJ Triggs guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Joe Burrow he's Eminem. That's what I'm saying. He's Eminem.
That's no debate.
No debate at all.
Exactly. Hey, I'm telling you though, like I think Burrow can be good, but will he be MVP? I definitely don't see it, man. I think there are too many dual threat talented quarterbacks in this league that are all ahead of him. I mean, right now, to me, I put Burrow in that category of like kind of a Jared Goff, which means we're looking at best probably around the 10th best quarterback in the NFL. Oh, there he
I'm saying,
is.
I'm saying he's Eminem. I
Yep.
don't understand this. Why is he Eminem?
He's wearing the beater because he's wearing the beater, man.
And
That's
and
it.
that's like Slim Shady Eminem. That's not
That's
even
Slim Shady.
Marshall. Like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, that's straight up like vanilla ice action going on there too, man. Like that's just a whole nother league, whole nother league.
So I don't know if you've seen this, but have you gotten a Gardner Minshew jersey yet?
I'm not getting a Gardner Minshew jersey ever.
What?
I'm not.
What if
Nah.
he takes you to the playoffs? Then you have to go get your Gardner Minshew jersey.
I like the guy. I think he's a great guy. But I will tell you this: the moment that happens that we can get that we can pay money for a high end quarterback, that guy will become the quarterback immediately. And
Did,
I see that being Dak Prescott.
did you just break up with Gardner Minshew? Like it's not you, it's not you, it's me. Did you
I'll
just do that to Gardner
I,
Minshew?
I'll tell you this: I watched the game a couple of nights ago against the Cowboys, and I know they pulled the reins on AOC, but I'll tell you this: Gardner Minshew, like he is he's got I don't know. He doesn't have that confidence. As great as his profile pick is, he just does not have that confidence about him about making a throw when he has to. To me, it's a lot of Derek Carr, and there are some times where he just doesn't have it. And I see that. I don't see that indecision making in Aiden O'Connell, but Aiden O'Connell, if the pocket tends to press, then he will definitely panic and he will just make a crazy errant throw. And that's different. The guy that I do want to see more out of, though, is actually the former defensive coordinator for the Raiders. I believe he's still in Indianapolis. But Gus Bradley's son is the third string quarterback for the Raiders. He's always got the mouth guard like up in his helmet. He's kind of got like this Steph Curry kind of swagger about him. There's something cool about that guy. Like he's a guy that I would love to see get an opportunity and see how he rolls with this offense. The guy's just got tons of confidence. Didn't really make any bad throws. The game just kind of ended not too long after he came in the fourth quarter. But I think there's something cool to that guy. But I still feel too like it's just a matter of time before we get like a Dak Prescott or someone who's looking to get paid that's an actually good quarterback, and they wind up with us. I mean, when it comes to this, we'll pay any amount of money to get an actual legit quarterback, but we have to do that in order to keep a guy like Devontae Adams content. And I know he's talking a lot to Antonio Pierce. I saw that on the sideline. So pretty much it comes down to who does Devontae Adams like, and Devontae Adams is probably the one calling the shots for bringing in Gardner Minshew.
Well, I'm just saying, Gardner Minshew had as many touchdowns as Joe Burrow did last year. Take that, Joe Burrow.
There you go. And definitely, too, Gardner Minshew is the number one NFL quarterback with 12 personnel, which we know the Raiders are going to be doing pretty much nonstop.
I mean, you're just setting me up for you getting a Gardner Minshew jersey. Like I'm kind of in now. We'll get matching Gardner Minshew jerseys. That's how it'll go.
Okay. Hey, I mean, Minshew Mania is pretty cool, and I'm eager to see it take off.
The Minshew stash.
Yeah, the Minshew stash is pretty dope, man. Like he's a cool guy. I like him. He's got a great personality for sure. But yeah, like if he can do what I believe it takes for this offense to just keep drives moving downfield, I feel every play, regardless whether it's a run play or a pass play, it needs to be a 5-yard play. if he can just get 5-yard plays, no matter who he throws to, we're going to move the ball downfield, and it's going to be incredibly hard to deal with. So if he can do that, fine. That's what it takes. I'm not expecting him to throw 300 yards a game. I'm expecting to see him throw 5 yards per play. If he can do that to either Devontae or Jacoby or Michael Myers or Brock Bowers, and he can do that play after play, that's all that matters.
Okay,
that's no debate.
So that is no debate. But now I actually have a debate question for you because I actually got into I don't think it was heated, but a very a questionable debate about drafting players, right?
Sure.
So in our league, I actually picked up TJ Hawkinson and I put him right to my reserve, and I was okay with that.
Yeah, that's a cool strategy. I love it.
And I picked up one tight end just to fill the spot. Doesn't even matter to me,
Sure.
which I actually think could be a sleeper. So in an actual, full-on normal league, not 24 teams or anything.
Yeah.
A gentleman picked up TJ Hawkinson, right? To put him on the IR, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
Here's where the problem comes in. He drafted 2 tight ends like back-to-back to fill that spot. So he has 3 on his roster, not just 2, right? So he ended up getting Ben Sinnott, the backup to Zach Ertz.
Yes.
Which I'm not completely for or against.
Yeah, he's the number 2 tight end from this draft. From the actual NFL draft.
NFL draft, yes.
Yeah.
But I think he'll be 12 personnel at best. I don't think Zach Ertz is just going to fall off a cliff kind of thing.
They're going to run 12 because Curtis Samuel is not there anymore.
Yep. And then Luke Musgrave from the Packers, who was, him and Tucker Kraft are kind of the same dude.
I wouldn't draft either.
Last year. I wouldn't touch either as well. So I was kind of like, yo, that was a bad decision. Like, unless you were just going to punt on the position, kind of like I did by getting TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah.
Because there's no telling if he comes back. He's on the PUP, so I think he's out till what, 5? Week 5?
I thought it's either, I think it's 5 weeks, man. It's pretty rough, actually.
Yeah. So like you're either punting on the position and you're like, okay, I'll just pick up whoever's out there. It's fine. But I don't see the win scenario of getting 2 tight ends that you're drafting kind of high.
Yeah, it's a third of your fantasy season, essentially. Because most fantasy seasons are going about 14 weeks. He's out for 5 weeks. That's a third of your season right there. In my opinion, I do like the Ben Sinnott pick. But I think too, you don't go with the Green Bay Packer tight ends. They're just too inconsistent. Plus, we know there's 5 wide receivers on that team. There is so much movement going on that offense that it's pretty hard to figure out. And what I would have done is, like I did, take a guy like Mike Gesicki, or also way further down in your draft too, like he's still open in our league as well. A guy like Greg Dulcich, I think is a really, really good one to pick. And maybe Dulcich makes it, maybe he doesn't. Maybe they go with Adam Troutman. But you have to try someone when you go that deep into your draft. I mean, maybe even a guy like Taysom Hill, you got to think about as well. Or I even think, too, if there is no TJ Hawkinson, find who the Vikings tight end is and go with him.
Yes, exactly. And that's kind of what I was thinking is the guy I'm talking about spent I think it was a 10th rounder and an 8th rounder or 9th rounder. And it's well, you just wasted 3 of your top 10 picks on tight ends that none of them, I mean, to be honest, you don't know if Hawkinson's going to come back right away and be the dude.
Because he's got knee issues, man. We're talking really bad knee issues.
Yeah. And like we said with Musgrave, I mean, he was literally coming off a lacerated kidney, and
Ooh,
Tucker Kraft kind of took his spot last year.
yeah,
And then on top of that, like Sanat is literally the backup. So none of these guys are coming in right away. I mean, none of them might actually make an impact in the first 5, 6 weeks. So that position is basically dead, and you wasted 3 of your top 10 picks on that
yeah.
position.
Yeah, I think that's definitely kind of what we're looking at. I would think, I'll be honest, I mean, you could even make a case that whoever the new Minnesota tight end is probably even better than Dulcich and probably better than Mike Gesicki.
Yeah,
I know Mike Gesicki actually has rookie competition coming up his way as well. But if you have Hawkinson's replacement, you already have the guy, and when Hawkinson is ready to go, then you just flip flop him. You can even drop your Minnesota tight end for Hawkinson, and you're ready to go.
yeah. And that's his name is Johnny Munt. I don't know if you knew that, but
No, is
he's
he a
the
rookie?
let's go check. Hmm. Actually, no, he played he had an uptick in the final 2 games, so he at least played last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I think a guy like that is a pretty solid addition. I mean, you got to do it. Like if you don't have Hawkinson and you're getting up pretty late in the draft and tight ends are getting dry, that's who you got to go with. I think it's a real solid pick. And the thing is, too, these knee issues, like they can really show up again. I would not be too confident that TJ Hawkinson makes it any further, and unfortunately, this could almost be the demise of his pro playing career.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe Detroit knew something that we all didn't, because they basically
Yes.
just moved away from him and went and got Sam Laporta.
Yeah, yeah. The upgrade to Sam Laporta was pretty sharp. I even remember too back when that draft was going on, that I believe it was Noah Fant and T.J. Hawkinson both coming out of Iowa, and I thought the world of T.J. Hawkinson, man. Like I know people
Mhm.
were kind of high on Noah Fant, and I think he's still in the league. I'm not sure where he is, but I'll be honest, I've really been a fan of T.J. Hawkinson for pretty much his entire career. And I thought he was really ascending in Detroit as well up until they dealt him. So I'm really bummed out to see that he's having the knee issues, because he was even a guy last season I was thinking about getting as well if he was healthy.
Noah Fant's in Seattle behind Will
Oh,
Disley.
okay. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting squad they got up there. And that's a team too that they could really roll with some 12 personnel at times if they got to give either JSN or Tyler Lockett a break.
And I don't think I completely torched the guy, but I did tell him that drafting three, tight ends in your top 10 is
Borderline,
like,
borderline tight ends.
yeah, borderline tight ends, right? Like that's like you don't even fill out your whole roster yet, or
Yeah.
your starting roster yet, and you're picking up two backups that might not actually play. Still puzzles me.
Yeah.
But I'll give you. Would you like to hear a breakdown of my team and that draft that I had?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Let's
Let's
see.
hear it.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It was a 14 teamer, right?
Okay. How many
So,
rounds?
huh?
How many rounds?
I mean, it was a full team. So like ESPN like standard.
Oh, okay. So is that like a 12 round draft or
One,
something like
two,
that?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh,
Oh,
actually 16. Sorry, 16.
oh, that's almost the same size as our league then.
Uh, what was ours? Ours was 9, right?
24 times 9.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
So I actually saw this guy fall a bunch, and I was like, I mean, I got him with the 76th pick.
Okay.
So, I mean, what is that? 5th round ish,
Yeah,
somewhere in
fifth
there.
roundish for your league. Yeah.
Um, oh, there's a draft recap. Oh, it'll actually tell me. Give me 1 second here.
Nice.
It was actually the 6th round is when I got him.
Okay.
And that's Dak Prescott.
Interesting.
I
Yeah, they're going to throw, man. Like that, their secondary got worse. The offense really has very little run game besides Ezekiel Elliott, who's really your goal line carrier. They have to throw. They have to throw. And they're going to be on a lot of shootouts, man.
I mean, if it make, I'll tell you the quarterbacks that went before him: Caleb Williams, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, C.J. Stroud, Deshaun Watson, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Anthony Richardson. Yeah, all of those quarterbacks went off the board, and I'm like, wow, it's the 6th round, and Dak Prescott's still sitting here. Why wouldn't
Yeah.
I just scoop this guy up? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's way better than Deshaun Watson. And honestly, like I can count on him. I can't count on Justin
Yeah.
Herbert. Like I've really taken Justin Herbert way far back, man. I think the guy's made of glass, and we'll see what happens. But I really don't think
Right.
Justin Herbert. And here's the other thing too. You and I pointed this out. I think there was a real opportunity for if I were the Chargers and if I was in charge of that team and I was a general manager, I think you and I were on the same page. We would have dealt Justin Herbert to the Minnesota Vikings and started over at quarterback with a guy like JJ McCarthy, who, granted, busted up his knee, but all signs of indications from that preseason game, like that guy can sling it. Like we were definitely wrong about what we thought about him coming into the league, but it would have been right for the Chargers to reset that position. Plus, they need so much more money to spend on other positions. I think they really got themselves in a hole right now with Herbert, and I just don't think he's going to stay healthy.
Right. So I'll start at the beginning here. At pick 9, I got Jonathan Taylor, which I thought was pretty solid.
The 9th overall pick. Gotcha. Was there any shot that you could have gotten him overall and Anthony Richardson? Because I have thought that combo, if you get that combo, I think you tear the lights off. I think that is the combo that flat out wins every fantasy football league, is Jonathan Taylor plus Anthony Richardson, barring Richardson stays healthy.
Anthony, I probably could have. I didn't think he was going to go in the 4th round. Like quarterbacks just started going off the board like rapid fire, which I was kind of sitting there and I'm like, okay, that's why I guess I'll get Dak Prescott because he's fallen to the 6th.
Yeah.
But 2nd round, I ended up getting Garrett Wilson at 20.
Whoa. Yeah.
Right. That's what I said.
I mean, I'll be honest. Like he's another guy like Devontae Adams that is just him. Devontae Adams, George Pickens, those 3 guys. They are all like just grasping to get like a quarterback that can just get them the ball consistently. And I think the 3 of those guys are easily in the top 5 of best receivers in the entire league. They just have weird, unique situations that their quarterback play is kind of wonky. But Garrett Wilson is probably the best of the bunch because as long as Aaron Rodgers is out there, man, like him and A-Rod definitely have synergy together for sure.
I mean, even when Aaron Rodgers wasn't out there, the guy still had 1,000 yards. He still had 1,000 yards. He only had 3 touchdowns, but it's like, I'm guaranteeing with Aaron Rodgers that number at least double.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know there were some really good throws that Zach Wilson had to him, but I mean, Aaron Rodgers is there, and I believe if Rodgers gets hurt, there's also Tyrod Taylor. So I can feel consistent or confident that Garrett Wilson will have some consistent quarterback play and give him the opportunities to score touchdowns when all you got to do is put the ball close to him and Wilson will make that catch.
But isn't that bananas, though? I got him at 20.
Yeah, I think Garrett Wilson, from what we've been seeing, is pretty much right around the teens. He's not a guy that drops to 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And then so
we got a
third
quick
round,
question here: Is Rodgers playing the preseason at all? I
have no idea.
don't know. Yeah, honestly, I don't know either. Yeah, we'll have
I
to
can
see
check
and
real
find
quick.
out. Yeah.
Let's see. We're looking at.
I'm kind of shocked he hasn't, if that is the case.
Gotta find the Jets for a second here,
Yeah.
which is always the fun part.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, what? I don't. Oh man, the ESPN site is a pain in the butt. Trying to figure out who played and did what. See him in the box.
I'll tell you what too.
Here.
Plus, Aaron Rodgers.
Adrian Martinez.
Oh yeah. Oh, you know what? Yeah, Adrian Martinez, a guy who's been in college for the last decade. Obviously, us being in the Big Ten country, we've seen Adrian Martinez play multiple college careers at Nebraska, essentially. But he was in the UFL this past season. I think he was with what was it, Michigan or something. Like he was on like the best team in the XFL from what I heard, and he did so well that he eventually landed this tryout with the Jets. So yeah.
No, Rodgers has not played.
Okay.
But Braylon Allen, Wisconsin rep.
Exactly. He's a sneaky guy out there too. Like
Definitely.
Depending what your league is, if you have Breece Hall, you have a bench spot. I think you have to get Braylon Allen. And I think this is a team that is going to run an offense kind of like what we did see Dallas do a couple seasons ago when they had both Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, where I think Breece Hall is that guy that gets you to the goal line. I think Braylon Allen is the guy that gets you into the goal, into the end zone. So I think you need both.
Right. So third round pick 37, I got Marvin Harrison Jr.
Smart pick, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, there's pretty much everything I'm seeing out there is projecting him to be a top 10 wide receiver, flat out, just across the board, top 10 wide receiver. And you got guys, that are leaving the Arizona Cardinals, so someone has to take their place. And Marvin Harrison, in my eyes, is definitely one of the top 2 wide receivers from this draft class.
So this next guy, like, I didn't actually even think about picking him, but again, he fell to the fourth round, and he's a 1,000-yard wide receiver. Pick 48.
Who was that again? You broke up for a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Pick 48, Michael Pittman Jr.
Yeah, for me, this is one of those teams I really don't want any of those Colts wide receivers. I have no idea what that offense is looking like. I like Jonathan Taylor a lot, but man, I don't want to roll the dice on that receiving core at all.
Yeah, I didn't either. But like at pick 48, a 1,000-yard wide receiver just falls in your lap who actually didn't have a quarterback last year. I mean, besides Gardner Minshew, I was like, why not roll the dice on him,
Okay. Was there anyone else kind of nearby you were thinking about at that time?
I thought about George Kittle and George Pickens, but I didn't want to have the same player on both teams.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, in that case, I think you made the right decision because George Kittle isn't really exploding like he used to, and he's really banged up. So at least you can count on Pittman.
Yeah, a lot of like tight ends and quarterbacks came off.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, and then in the fifth round, I got Evan Ingram.
Oh, that's pretty good. He has always been one of
Did
those
you
guys
did you
that's
catch
kind
me
of
on that
been.
one?
Yes, yeah, I caught Evan Ingram. He is definitely a guy from the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's actually two guys on the Jaguars that I would definitely want. He is one of them. The other one that I hear that is really breaking out in training camp is Brian Thomas. I think those two guys are definitely going to be
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence's number one targets. We know Gabe Davis there. We know Travis Etienne is there out of the backfield. But when it comes to especially the goal line, I think Evan Ingram is such a matchup nightmare. And essentially, to me, I think that was kind of what the Giants were expecting to get when they brought in Darren Waller after losing Evan Ingram a few years earlier. It didn't work out, but Evan Ingram pretty much took his best New York Giants season and transferred that to the Jacksonville Jaguars last year. So I love seeing Ingram, and I still think he's a big time playmaker that he's going to have a few weeks where he will score multiple touchdowns in a game and definitely win you a fantasy matchup.
And to get him in the sixth or like in 60 at 65, like I mean, Mark Andrews, Kittle came off, McBride had come off,
Yeah,
Njoku, like Kincaid. Like I was like, oh, I should probably get one of these guys, you know?
absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree
So
with that. That's a pretty dope tight end to snake.
so sixth round, pick 76 was the Prescott pick.
Sure.
Seventh round, where am I here? Oh, seventh round at 93, I got Zach Moss.
Okay.
Eighth round, 104, I got Xavier Worthy, which I thought was a
What?
steal at that point.
What? That's
Yep.
insane, man. Like, I mean, you know that I took Xavier Worthy essentially in the third round. I had some mocks where for me, when I was back to back at 24, 25, where I did take even Xavier Worthy in that 24 to 25 stretch. I think he's another guy that's like lightning in the bottle. I think flat out, this is a guy that is somewhere between a Tyreek Hill and a Jameson Williams. I think there's just going to be games where that guy is just going to be a torch, a human torch, and he's going to have over 100 yards receiving and at least one touchdown in a given game. He
Yeah.
is definitely one of those big time receivers you have to get.
Yep. And then ninth round, I got Nick Chubb at 121.
Yeah, you can roll the dice on that. It is what it is. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
I got the 10th round, Jerome Ford.
Oh, so you paired them together. Smart. Yeah. If you got that was the combo we talked about the other week that, hey, if you look at Cleveland, if you look at Denver, some of these teams, like you can get both these running backs together way, way late in your draft. And I think that's massive value that you got there between Chubb and Ford.
11th round, I got the Chiefs defense.
Yep. Yeah, that's solid.
12th was Romeo Dobbs.
Okay. And yeah, you're going to roll the dice there at times, especially with that Green Bay receiving core. But as far as we know, Dobbs and Jordan Love are pretty tight, especially when they get to the goal line. He is one of those guys that works his way around the end zone, and he can definitely find his way open pretty often, actually.
So I did pick one player that was the same from the other draft. That's Cameron Dicker because he was
Your
just there.
kicker. Yeah. So
In
the
the 14th
strategy,
round, I got Rico Dowdle.
Rico Dowdle. Yeah, he's that Dallas Cowboy running back, right?
Yep. Yep.
Gotcha. So a strategy that a friend of mine brought up that was with us at our draft on Sunday. was pairing the kicker with the quarterback. And I think that is a brilliant move, actually, especially on teams that have like high octane offenses, and especially for a team like you with Dak Prescott. Was there any way that you could have paired him up with Brett Maher?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, because I think if you can pair that quarterback with a kicker on a team that you know is just going to be on offense nonstop, I think it's a pretty top notch strategy.
I think it might have gone before me.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That happens.
I can't even find him.
Yeah, but like you pointed out, like the accuracy on that kicker that you have is pretty top notch. I mean, he's missed
Yeah,
only like 5 of his last 100 kicks, essentially.
something ridiculous like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
15th round, I got Will Levis.
Okay. I will tell you this
And
though, man.
then
Like Will Levis's schedule is rough. It is
he's my
really
backup,
really
though.
rough. But he's your backup, yeah. So that's fair.
Yeah. And then my last pick was Malachi Corley, the rookie at
Malachi.
the Jets.
Okay, the rookie of the Jets, is he like a slot receiver or something?
I'm not sure where they're gonna pair him up, but he snagged a few targets during preseason. And I don't know. He was a 65th pick overall in the NFL draft. So
Okay.
they spent a pretty penny on him.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. In that case, I mean, there's something going on there. Definitely give him a shot and see what happens. So yeah,
So
it's not bad.
his nickname his nickname in college was the Rack King.
The Rack King. Okay. Huh.
Run after catch.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. That's interesting. Huh.
Yep.
There you go.
That's the whole roster.
Nice. Yeah, that's a pretty good team you got there. I mean, you got 14 teams, so there's a lot of action going on in there. So yeah, I mean, you can be pretty flexible with that lineup too. You got some big playmakers, especially like a Xavier Worthy in there. You got the high octane offense out of Dak Prescott. So yeah, there's definitely some good pieces on that team for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess before we go out of here, I told you I would give you my breakdown of my WNBA fantasy team.
Ah, yes. Yes. WNBA. Here we go.
So I started 1-3 because I forgot I drafted the team. Since then, I am 6-0.
Wow.
Six
There you
game
go.
win streak.
Okay. Nice.
I am
Nice.
going to make the playoffs, which is great.
Okay.
Which actually starts this week. I am the number 3 seed, but I'm tied for first, so it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But my roster is Jewel Lloyd, the guard from Seattle Storm.
Yep.
She's averaging 20-5.
Okay.
Sabrina Ionescu, who's averaging 26-4.
Yeah, that's a player.
Brittany Griner at 18-6 with 2 blocks.
There you go.
Brianna Jones, who's the 4th best center in fantasy.
Sure.
Angel Reese, who is my like secret weapon.
That is a secret weapon right there. Even for Chicago.
Deanna Taurasi.
Yeah, that's pretty solid down in Phoenix. Plus her and Brittany Griner together. That's kind of a combo.
Camille Cardosa.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. I got her like at the end because she was injured, but now she's the
Yeah.
7th ranked center. because she's been lighting it up.
Yes, she has.
I got my favorite player on the Indiana Fever, not Caitlin Clark, but Kelsey Mitchell.
There you go. Absolutely.
Kennedy Carter, who's with Angel Reese out there.
Okay.
She's the one that got in Caitlin Clark's face in Chicago.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
The old bump.
Yep. The
And
old
then
bump.
I also got Las Vegas Aces Chelsea Gray, who was injured at the beginning of the season. So she's been in my IR spot, but now she's back.
Nice. That's pretty good. Yeah, it's a pretty baller lineup you got there.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, I think I'm drafted with people that don't know WNBA.
Hey, there you go. How many teams are in your league?
It's a good question. 6.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would think of
they're
that
pretty
6
small
team.
lineup.
Yeah, I gotcha. So take this. I was hearing this today on Fox on Colin Cowherd's show, and I think he brought up a great point that come next year, next summer, there's no Olympics. I think the WNBA next year is going to be on an absolute tear, to the point that he pointed out this, and I thought this was a really good point, to the point that it could even jeopardize Major League Baseball. That's huge.
Yep.
Because honestly, the only thing that kind of stopped the hype of the WNBA right now was the Olympics. And if the Olympics would have carried Caitlin Clark plus Angel Reese, they would have continued that momentum hands down. But next season there is no Olympics. And especially like when we're moving forward into this time of year, as much as I love fantasy football, the number one sporting event that I see that is aired on ESPN, I absolutely hate. I dread it. It sucks. It should not be on television whatsoever. And that is the Little League World Series. It is terrible, terrible television. Terrible. I absolutely dislike it. It's my between that, it's like that college baseball World Series. Women's softball is okay, but it's not that great. But to see like women's professional basketball just clean the floor with all 3 of them, that's what I want to see. I want to see professional women's basketball and not baseball of any kind. And even honestly, the women's softball is about the best. But men's baseball and kids' little league baseball are trash. They're absolutely terrible on television.
Well, I kind of agree. Yes. But this is like the lull of the summer. Like that's why they play the little league stuff on ESPN. But I think women's basketball should take that spot.
Yeah. I mean, it's to the point that I heard Colin Cowherd bring up that really there should be a major network out there that should just buy all the games outright. And if I were someone listening to that, maybe a guy like Jeff Bezos and Amazon, I just scoop that up immediately. Just throw as much money as you can at the WNBA to block off any competition from ESPN or who knows what other league. I mean, Netflix is working its way into the sports game as well. We're going to see a Netflix coming up soon, I think. They're really starting to try to make their way in with like MMA or boxing events. But man, I think someone has to scoop up the WNBA. And like I said, if I were a owner trying to get into ownership of any league, the WNBA to me is number one, because the return on investment for WNBA professional franchises, I think, is going to be just absurd compared to any other league.
Yeah, the WWE is going to be on Netflix in January.
Oh, wait. So, the WNBA in January is going to be on Netflix?
No. WWE, like professional wrestling.
Yes. Professional wrestling.
Yeah. So
yes,
I could see them scooping in some sports. Why not?
Absolutely. I think someone I mean, I think the days of seeing was it the WNBA games on, gosh, I don't know, USA, Ion, the CW, and ESPN, and every now and then CBS Sports Network. I think that's got to come to an end. I think there needs to be one network, maybe two, maybe like a Fox CBS thing, and you just crank those games. I would kind of like to see two companies, so that way you kind of build competition, you build revenue, and that works out better for the teams and the players. But I think we got to really recognize that the WNBA is popular, it's growing, and it's going to grow to the point that it will jeopardize Major League Baseball. I really think that's going to happen.
I mean, ESPN basically plays every Caitlin Clark game, so it's pretty close.
It is. Yeah. So if ESPN buys it up, more power to them. But yeah, you're right. That's got to be the way to go about it. I think that time is about to happen. And what was that? I mean, I think I heard too, like, we're almost getting to the point where like the women's games are almost matching the viewership of certain men's games. So
yeah,
it's
Clark and Angel Reese. Yeah,
exactly. So if you have that much viewership, then you can definitely charge more as a broadcast station, and then that money works its way back to the players. So in the end, it works out.
Win-win.
Win-win. That's no debate. So
boom.
There you go, guys. Hey, I think that's everything we got for a show tonight. I'm feeling pretty good about this. So I'm Steve Metrics. That's your boy,
DJ Triggs.
And that's no debate.